Are you harmed in any other way other than, the clergy not, if they don't want to perform a marriage, then they don't have to, and they'll be held harmless? I mean, it's just people to go to the city hall or town hall and get a certificate and go that route. It's a civil same-sex marriage.
What it is our government changing the meaning of marriage for everyone in the state of New York to the extent that the government has power, which it does. You ask how I'm going to be harmed. I don't view this as about me. I mean, I think people who are doing this, who are getting involved in this fight, I think it's for the good of the whole country. I actually don't even think it's going to be good for gay people in this country to have gay marriage, if I'm right. Everyone, whether they marry or not, needs a social institution that is backed and recognized by government that's really about transmitting the whole society into the next generation. And what gay marriage does is it cuts that link, and it says marriage is about adults, our rights, our desires, and that these are justify redefining a core social human institution known throughout time and place. And we can see that it's going to be very hard to stand up for the idea that children needs a mother and father if our government is teaching our children in public schools that idea is discredited bigotry.
It is about the next generation. If kids are taught that same-sex marriage is right in elementary school, it will redefine the basic building block of the culture. That's the generational impact of this decision. That's what we're concerned about, not what people do in private, but what happens to the culture because of the public proclamation and the acceptance of this kind of marriage.
Also, as a New Yorker, we are all harmed by this process, by the way that this is coming about. I mean, this is going to take, for this law to pass, it's going to involve 1,300 other laws that have to be passed in order for this law to be considered civil. And right now we are facing probably one of the most important decisions in the history of the state of New York is the rent control law. That's threatening to put thousands of New Yorkers out on the street if that law is not passed. And yet the governor has pushed us here, has brought us to this point. The mayor has come to lobby at this point. We are all harmed because this is not a priority agenda for the majority of New Yorkers. Rent control is. We're not speaking about that. We're not talking about that. This should go before as a referendum before the people of the state of New York. Let the people decide and not legislators.
Also, we legalize same-sex marriage. We're going to make normative a union in which a child could be raised without a mother or a father. It also has economic ramifications because the prisons have about 85% of the people in prison don't have a father at home. And so we will be further legalizing a dysfunctional condition that's only getting worse. The other thing is marriage has been proven to be the major mediating institution in which we're able to aid and benefit all of society. That's why there's been many benefits for married couples. And if we redefine marriage, what is going to happen is government is going to have to get larger. That means more taxation. We're already collapsing under the weight of our own, under our own weight with all the taxation. And so we're just going to make many, many problems worse if we legalize same-sex marriage.
Excuse me, I have a question. I heard that in Massachusetts there were many Roman Catholic orphanages that had to close because of lawsuits against them. Can you verify that, or have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, it's a fact that the Boston Catholic Charities had to drop, it was the nation's oldest, I believe, adoption and foster care agency because of the threat of litigation. We're just now seeing that repeated. A few months back, when Illinois passed a badly drafted civil union statute, the sponsor promised that religious liberty would be protected. But as soon as it was passed, all of a sudden, same-sex couples decided to go to Catholic and evangelical Lutheran charities and allege discrimination because those agencies don't place children with same-sex couples. It's not about gay adoption. There's plenty of other agencies that do. It's about whether one adoption agency cannot be allowed to help poor children if it doesn't agree with the government's definition of marriage. And in Illinois, that answer looks like it's still an open legal question, but the answer is really up in the air because what happens is people say, well, we wouldn't do that for you if you were a bigot who was opposed to interracial marriage. That's what they told the Catholic Charities. And so that race analogy, which is used over and over again, you cannot say that and then say that gay marriage will not have consequences. It will. Once that principle is in the law, the principle is going to be pushed, and it's going to affect the rights of other people.
Do you live in New York State?
I moved out 2 years ago, but I
Where
raised
are
my
you?
children. I'm in the D.C. area now. We have a national office. But I own a home in Ossining, and I raised my 2 children in New York.
Because in Rensselaer County, the county Department of Social Services put a Jewish child in with a same-sex couple. So it's already being done in New York
No,
State.
gay adoption is everywhere. You missed the point. It's not about whether gay people adopt. It's about whether Catholics can run an adoption agency according to their own conscience and principle, and other Christians and Orthodox Jews and people of faith. So it's not that by the Catholic Charities is trying to prevent gay adoption. They're just trying to help as many poor children find good homes without surrendering their conscience and their religious views. And that's what's at risk. It's the religious liberty of dissenters to the government's new vision of what a marriage is that's at
The
stake.
argument that's made on the other side, to the point, is that if you would put mixed-race marriage on a referendum in Mississippi in the 40s or 50s or even into the 60s, it would have been voted down quickly. How do you respond to that?
I would say that through a very arduous process, America has come to a consensus. Today, there's no question, today we see racism as something that's un-American. There is a process we must follow to come to some kind of agreement around this issue. Right now, we're being set up to have winners and losers, with perhaps the next generation being the most challenged. So we shouldn't force this right now.
Isn't that the kind of incrementalist argument that's being made all through the 40s and 50s about blacks in the military?
I don't think so. Charles Hamilton Houston, the great dean of Howard Law School, and Thurgood Marshall fought in the courts, one battle after another battle, and while they were fighting the courts, public opinion changed, and the public at the same time came to a crescendo with the legal system, and change was permanent. Unless we get a process, we're going to have tremendous problems.
I would say the New York court has already rejected that analogy for the state of New York. It has ruled there is no right to gay marriage. If the legislatures do this because they have a personal and private vision that this is a civil right, I don't think that's shared by a majority of New Yorkers. I think they would trust the people and not the politicians to decide the future of marriage. And I would also just say, I understand there are people who disagree, but for people of every race and creed and color who are standing up for marriage, this is just totally apples and oranges. You know, to call the comparison between marriage as the union of a man and a woman, a husband and wife who can give their child a mother and father, that's not based in irrationality or hatred or prejudice. It has deep roots in human nature. These two kinds of unions really are not the same. And whatever we want to do to express respect and to meet the legitimate social needs of gay people in our society, it's just wrong to redefine marriage. None of us have the right to do that in our view.
Legalizing same-sex marriage is changing the core fundamental value that has stabilized our society to accommodate 0.3% of the population. What about the other 99.7% of the population? Think about them.
There's another point over here. You're talking about evolution. As if everything has to have evolution, and evolution always makes it better.
Things can get worse.
What about open marriages of 5 or 6 people? Using your same logic, we've got to come to a communal attitude of understanding. It's better if 7 people could stay in one bed. And it's great for the children. We just have to evolve to it. Why does everything have to evolve to something better? Some of the things here, like the way people dress, the music, the crassness of the culture, is devolving. Maybe this is part of the devolving. Maybe same-gender marriage is going south.
Yes.
Wow.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right, let me grab the buttons.